All right, I wanted to actually do a video and address a topic that gets talked about quite a bit, but I haven't seen anybody address it really in a comprehensive way. And I think that those of us that are on whatever side of the topic probably need to have better thought out arguments. That is regarding the shed antler closures with Nevada and Colorado, in recent years Utah, doing closures to the shed hunting seasons. It's obviously going to be a topic of debate. Are they a good thing or are they a bad thing? I actually get quite a few comments referencing the closures, and people have asked me what my thoughts are on it, and I want to lay them out for you here. First and foremost, I'm 100% against a shed antler season or a shed antler closure, and let me give you my reasons why. I'll give you my reasons why by addressing the reasons why they say that they're doing a shed antler closure. They say that shed hunting puts stress on animals during the critical time of the year when they're under the most pressure. Feed is at its minimum. They've been stressed all through winter, and putting more pressure on them is a bad thing. And on the surface, that sounds like a good idea, right? We don't want to be putting pressure on animals when they're at their most vulnerable. But let's look at it a little bit. I have spent more than 30 years out in the woods observing animal behavior and various other things. And the first thing we need to establish is that there's a big difference between pressure and harassment. One of the reasons why I'm against shed antler closures is that it assumes that any kind of pressure is bad, and that shed hunting puts more pressure than other activities in the outdoors. There is a big difference between somebody chasing deer or elk or whatever animals on a snowmobile, in a four-wheeler, in a vehicle, on foot, chasing those animals with the intent of hoping to make their antlers fall off. I'm sure it happens. I've never seen it happen, but I'm sure that it probably happens. And that's stupidity. But here's the thing. That is already against the law, and it should be against the law to harass wildlife like that. It should be. There's a big difference between that and actually you're slipping through the woods doing whatever activity you might be doing. Maybe you're bird watching. Maybe you're spring turkey hunting. Maybe you're hiking. Maybe you're cross-country skiing. Maybe you're snowmobiling. Maybe you're shed hunting. And you're slipping through the trees, and a deer sees you. And it gets alert, and it goes off through the trees and goes over the next hill. Did you just put undue pressure on that animal? Did you just make it experience something that is going to be detrimental to it? And the honest answer to that is no, you didn't. What you just did is something that happens to that deer every single day, multiple times a day, every day of that deer's life. That deer slipping over the hill and into the trees where it feels safe again is naturally what it does all day, every day, because that deer is always a prey animal. From lions to coyotes to whatever, that thing knows that it's under pressure, and that is its way of adapting and surviving. If we do a shed closure because we say that type of pressure is bad on the animals, the problem with a shed closure is it specifically only targets people who shed hunt. So you're still okay to go out and do any of the other things you might want to do in the woods. You just can't pick up a shed if you happen to come across it. A second problem I have with the shed closures is they deliberately write the laws so that you can break the law without intending to break the law. And that's 100% of the time lazy law enforcement. It's already against the law to harass wildlife. Okay? If you have to write more laws to protect the laws that you can't already enforce, you're not doing a good thing. And the reason why it's wrong is because you're specifically targeting one small demographic and telling them they can't do their activity, but all these other activities that have the same results and sometimes much worse, they're okay. You can do those things. So, for example, some of the laws have been written that if you locate, in the list of words they say you can't find, locate, retrieve, pick up, collect, all those words that they used to describe the illegal activity during that shed season. And they always throw in a couple of words like locate, find, stuff like that. That's designed so that you can break that law without intending to look. So you're a nature hunter walking through the trees looking for birds, and you happen to trip on an antler, and you look down and there's an antler. You just found an antler, and technically you just broke that law without having any intentions of breaking it. That's a good indication that what you have is a bad law. Now, I want to be clear that I am not saying that I think that other activities should also be banned or outlawed or put at other times of the year because they're picking on us as shed hunters. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that there is a lot of inconsistency with blaming shed hunters for putting pressure on animals. Let me give you an example. I recently had, and this is just not to pick on somebody, but I recently had somebody comment on a video that they wish that shed hunting with dogs was outlawed. And when I asked why, he said, well, it messes up my spring turkey hunt. And it's been determined by biologists that shed hunting is detrimental to the animals. And so I asked him, I said, think about that for a minute. You're saying that you out in the woods with a shotgun shooting birds is less harmful to animals than somebody walking through the woods with a dog. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. Well, again, I would submit, like what I said earlier, neither of those activities is actually having a increase in pressure on the animals. It's not going to detrimentally affect those animals. If a deer having to run 50 or 100 yards into the trees to feel safe because it encountered somebody is the difference between it living and dying, it wasn't going to live anyway. Every single time animals choose to cross roads, which they do multiple times a day, when a vehicle comes, they run off into the trees. Every time they smell a coyote or see another prey animal, they do this all day, every day. It's not going to harm them. If they are in a situation where it's going to harm them, they're not going to make it anyway. The difference is not going to be shed hunting. Now, what do we need to do about it? One, we need to be vocal, because we should not be allowing one person at a desk with a sharp pencil to, with the stroke of his pen, make illegal an activity that was previously legal. If it's going to be done, it should be done legislatively, and we ought to be able to have some conversation and some common sense discussion about the subject. If shed hunting is putting pressure on animals, so is everything else in the woods. And you've got no right to keep people out of the woods. It is public land, and we have a right to be out there. Now, that being said, we have to be responsible. We need to obey those harassment laws. We should not be pushing animals to the point where it's going to be hurting them. If you're any kind of a shed hunter anyway, you are not doing that. When a good shed hunter slips it yesterday, I'm slipping through a flat, I look up on a hillside and I see 3 deer. 2 of them are bucks that are still packing both sides of their antlers. Did I go running toward them hoping that I could jar their antlers off? No, I didn't. I went the other direction 180 degrees and I avoided them because I know right where they're at. And sometime probably this week or next week, I know that that big buck is going to drop his antlers. That was the smart thing to do. And I didn't put any undue pressure on the animals, and I got a pretty good idea where that thing's going to be when he drops his antlers because I didn't push him. Anybody that's a real shed hunter knows that more pressure equals more difficult shed hunting. If you locate large numbers of animals and just leave them alone, you can go in there and pick up multiples and sets, whereas animals that are being scattered and pushed all over the place are going to have singles and spread way out. It makes it difficult. So we as shed hunters have to realize that to have the best experience shed hunting, we need to have the least impact possible on the animals. Just from a productivity standpoint, to be able to find the sheds, leave aside anything else. If we can do that, then they really have no reason to outlaw our activity or even put a season on our activity. What the real basis of the closures is just simply more erosion of our rights, taking us out of the public land and giving us less access to the public land. It starts with having to take a test and get a permit to be able to get your permit to pick up sheds, and then pretty soon you have to pay for the permit, and then pretty soon there's a season, and then pretty soon you have to put in for the draw, or you have to put in for a lottery to even be able to pick up sheds. We don't want that. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't happen. Sheds laying on the ground, they're simply going to rot into the earth. They're going to go away. Those of us that like to pick them up, me for example, I would rather pick up a big set of sheds than kill the big animal. I really would. I would much rather do that. So, you know, for someone to say that their activity is more important, like hunting is more important than shed hunting, well, to you it might be, but to me it's not. I would rather, because I don't have to have, the reason why I like that, at least one aspect of why I like it is I don't have to draw a permit. I don't have to pay for a tag. I don't have a season where I can go for 7 days out of the entire year. And if I'm unsuccessful in that 7 days, then I'm screwed till next year. That's why I like shed hunting. The older I get, the less I care about killing an animal, but I like the hunt. And shed hunting gives me that thrill, that excitement, the pursuit, and without ever having to kill anything. And it's a fun activity. It's healthy. It doesn't harm the animals. But we need to be good ambassadors of our sport. We need to be able to articulate the reasons why we're against shed closures. They don't do anything positive for the animals. Just let me disabuse you of that notion right now. A guy walking through the trees picking up shed antlers is not going to harm animals. A guy that's doing more than that is already breaking the law, so we don't need more laws. Just to summarize it, we need to be against shed closures. We need to fight it. Nevada, Wyoming, Colorado, you need to get them reversed. In Utah, you need to fight getting them, just because that's all they're really trying to do is restrict your access, restrict your freedoms. We're losing the things that used to make, the areas that we live in, to make us love them. We're losing access to being able to do those things by road closures and seasons and, the prices of tags going up. Little by little, we're seeing those things decrease to where we don't have the freedoms that we used to have. And when there's ridiculous reasons like, oh, if you pick up sheds, you're harming animals, it's just bogus. It's ridiculous. It's not even close to the truth. And anybody that spends any time out in the woods knows that that's the case. You're not harming animals. And if you are harming animals, you're already breaking a law. It's already taken care of. Anyway, I'm curious. What are your thoughts on the subject? Obviously I'd be open to have some input. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I'd like to have a well thought out discussion with why you think that, your spring turkey hunt is less detrimental to an animal than me slipping through the woods picking up antlers. Let's have that discussion. But shed closures, they're a bad thing. They're not productive. They target us, and they're not doing any benefit other than hurting the people that want to shed hunt. And the sad thing is they actually only hurt the people that are going to be honest and follow the laws. There's already tons of people out there still picking up sheds in those places that are closed. And it's the guys that are honest and don't do it that get hurt. So we need to fight it. Tell me what you think about it. Leave a comment.